Next up, we have one of the most well-crafted animation movies ever made, Toy Story 3. Now, I grew up with Toy Story. I have Toy Story 1 and 2 on beta tape. If I remember right, I think the first movie that I ever got was the Buzz Lightyear Star Command cartoon. I actually just watched that recently, and I didn't realize how brutal it actually is. There's a fight scene at the end of that cartoon that's pretty gritty, actually. I think Buzz Lightyear somehow gets tortured in that movie, so, yay for childhood. But anyways, I think that this is the best of the three. And if you said that you didn't get choked up in this movie, you're lying. The part at the end of the movie where Woody, Buzz, and the rest of the toys are holding hands, accepting the fact that they are about to be dropped to their death into a fire pit, that's pretty deep. That's really deep. No more of that you got a friend in me bull crap. They're about to die. This movie is more intense than most action movies that we have today. Props, Toy Story. Props. Next up, we have The Usual Suspects, aka a mystery novel in movie form. Kudos to this movie though, I was not expecting the ending of this movie. The whole time I was trying to figure it out and I just couldn't. Very unpredictable, very well made. The acting is pretty good in this movie other than the fact that I can't understand a freaking word that Benicio del Toro says. I'm sorry. Next up, I have Wes Anderson's Moonrise Kingdom, one of my favorite movies of 2012. Hilarious and quirky and a stellar cast. You have Bruce Willis, Edward Norton, Frances McDormand, Tilda Swinton, and obviously the comedy god Bill Murray. This movie is... voice crack. Let me try that again. This movie is so unique. The cinematography is just so smooth. Everything looks so swift. It's almost like they gave this whole movie a 1970s filter. You know, where everything has that sort of orange tint? Also, the kid in this movie, I don't know his name, but he is freaking hilarious. Usually I get kind of annoyed by kid actors, but this guy is very good at this role. Such an original plot, such an original movie. Check out Moonrise Kingdom, it's great. Next up, we have Memento, Christopher Nolan's first feature film, if you don't count his indie film The Following. It stars Guy Pearce, Carrie-Anne Moss, and Joe Pantoliano. This movie is extremely hard to follow. It's brilliant, but like all Christopher Nolan movies, it's extremely complex. This movie is like a puzzle piece. I have this part of the puzzle piece figured out, this part, and this part, but I'm not exactly sure how to put the whole puzzle piece together as one. Pretty good explanation, right? Now you want to use it, right? No? Okay, well, Memento. Next up, we have Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, starring Jim Carrey, Kate Winslet, Mark Ruffalo, and Elijah Wood. This movie is awesome. It's just pure great. I love this movie. It's so unique and original. I don't know what genre I would actually characterize this movie in, though. Romance, fantasy, maybe? Really unique plot. Check this out if you haven't seen it. It's very good. Next up, we have the two heaviest Blu-ray packs of my collection. Star Wars The Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2. Now, a lot of people say that they like Harry Potter The Deathly Hallows Part 2 more because it's more action-packed. But honestly, I actually like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 more just because of the fact that it's more character development than Part 2. A lot of talking and a lot of camping in this one, but personally for me, that's not a bad thing. I like when there's good dialogue in a movie, and this movie definitely has it. Now, I'm not saying that I hate this movie. I love Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. It is an action-packed, epic conclusion to the movie franchise, and it does what it wants to do really well. Harry Potter for life. Next, we have Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. This movie is a roller coaster ride, and the movie cover sums it up for me. And the movie cover sums up this movie pretty well. It's Tom Cruise climbing the tallest building in the world. What did you do with your day? This movie is an action blockbuster at its finest. Now, I watched the first Mission Impossible, and personally, I like this one more. The action scenes in this movie are filmed brilliantly. It's simply an action-packed thrill ride. The rewatchability factor on this movie is great as well. You can't really top a blockbuster like Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Oh wait, yes you can. What can I really say about this movie? I mean, it's funny, it is action-packed, it's wonderfully acted. This is a perfect superhero movie. The director of this movie is Joss Whedon, who couldn't be a better choice to direct this movie. This movie is brilliantly made. If I were to describe this movie, I would probably call this a masterpiece. It does everything right. I can't really find anything wrong with the movie or the Blu-ray. Although, I did notice the second time that I watched this movie, I didn't enjoy it as much as the first. The Blu-ray to this movie is absolutely outstanding as well. The picture quality and sound quality are stellar. So I'm not even going to say check it out because 98.999% of the people who are watching this video have probably seen this movie like 5,000 times. Next up, we have Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Now, I've only seen this movie once, but I absolutely love it. In my opinion, it's better than Terminator 1, but I share that opinion with a lot of people, I think. So, it is a 1990s classic, and the rewatchability factor of this movie is endless, even though I've only seen it once. But you get my point, right? No? Okay. Cinema Paradiso and Amadeus I've never seen in my life, but I heard they're good, so I'm probably going to watch them eventually. Nine-foot blue people. Next up, I have Casino Royale starring Daniel Craig. This movie is the first reboot to the Bond franchise, and does it do it well. And this movie is 100% action fun. Check it out, great movie. Next up, we have 2001 A Space Odyssey. Now, I just started watching this movie today. I'm about halfway through. So far, I'm pretty interested. I love Stanley Kubrick. I love the style that he had to all of his movies. The visuals in this movie are phenomenal. I mean, the fact that this movie was made in 1968 and its visual effects are better quality than most movies that we have today, extremely impressive. I think that Stanley Kubrick was a time traveler. He went in the future and he took some of the software that we had and used it in his movies. Maybe. Stanley Kubrick has always been an interesting character. His directing style always fascinated me. I don't know, a couple months ago I actually had a Stanley Kubrick documentary watching spree on YouTube. Yeah, I probably watched 100 documentaries. Interesting guy, good movie so far. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Dun 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 dun. Jaws. Sharks. Eating. Fun. Let me just start off by saying that the Blu-ray conversion of this movie is top-notch. It's one of the best Blu-ray conversions I've ever seen. If I didn't know that this movie was made in 1975, the Blu-ray conversion makes it look like it was just made this past year. Outstanding movie and outstanding Blu-ray. Funny how? How am I funny? That was a terrible impersonation, I'm really sorry. But next up, we have Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas, starring Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, and Joe Pesci. This movie has Martin Scorsese written all over it. The writing, the editing, and the story is just flat out perfect. You could not possibly watch this movie 1,000 times and get sick of it. That's how good the rewatchability factor of this movie is. The editing is just so fast-paced, it keeps you invested 100%. The camera work of this movie is what sells it for me. It's almost like they try so hard to make it look so imperfect and gritty, and that's what makes it perfect. The brilliant mind of Martin Scorsese. You have some random director try to make something look crappy, and it's crappy. You have Martin Scorsese make something look crappy, and it looks like a pile of gold. The camera work is just so raw, it's just brilliant. It's almost a character in itself. It gives the movie the tone it needs perfectly. And the music in this movie is just great. I don't know how this works, but Martin Scorsese does this thing where he puts a slow song in with a scene where a guy is being brutally tortured. And guess what? It works perfectly. Perfect, 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 perfect. Perfect. Watch Goodfellas. Drive. I have no words that can describe my love for this movie. This movie is so great. There are two people in this world, you see. There are people who don't like this movie, and there are people who do like this movie. See, the people who don't like this movie are complete idiots. No, I'm joking. I completely respect the people who don't like this movie's opinion. But personally, I think this movie is an art house masterpiece. Ryan Gosling is absolutely electric in this movie. He says maybe a total of 20 lines. He is one of the greatest characters ever. Just the fact that his name is the driver shows that this guy is so mysterious. He says everything with his eyes, and not a lot of actors can do that. A lot of actors would have trouble with this role because they need to express themselves by saying lines. Not Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling, like I said in my review in Place Beyond the Pines, he is one of the best actors we have today. I respect him immensely. Plus, Bryan Cranston is in this movie. He is amazing. This movie is great. Why haven't you seen this movie if you haven't seen this movie? Why? Cinematography. Check. Great actors. Check. Great directing. Check. Complex, layered story. Check. What am I describing? Drive. Why haven't you seen it? I don't know. Watch it. Please. Dear God, please watch it. It's amazing. Drive. Oh yeah, we got Fargo here. This movie is a pretty good movie. It stars Frances McDormand, you know. Just so you know, I live near Fargo. We don't talk like that. Okay, maybe we do a little bit, but not so thick in the accent, okay? I'm joking. Fargo, this is a great crime thriller. It's actually pretty outstanding. The movie has somewhat of a deserted, haunting feel to it, and it really shows how desperate people can be for money. I don't really know how I feel about William H. Macy in this movie. He is so likable, and yet so evil. Steve Buscemi is great. I love Steve Buscemi in this movie, and also Frances McDormand does a pretty awesome job as well. Fun fact, I actually know the actress who plays William H. Macy's wife who gets kidnapped in this movie. Fun facts are fun, huh? Yeah. Next up, we have a movie that makes you care about a volleyball. If you still don't know what I'm talking about Castaway, starring Tom Hanks. Director Robert Zemeckis. I mean, come on, he did all the Back to the Futures and Forrest Gump, and now this movie? Robert Zemeckis, man. The only problem I have with this movie isn't actually the movie itself, it's just more of a technical problem. During the night scenes of this movie, you can't really see what's going on, but the rest of the movie makes up for it because it's so dang good. Look at that face. Yep. Tom Hanks, the nicest man in the world. Next off, we have Gran Torino, starring Clint Eastwood, directed by Clint Eastwood. Actually, this movie only took 5 weeks to film. Fun facts are fun, right? This is one of those movies that I forgot that I was actually watching a movie. I knew what was gonna happen by the end of the movie, but when the ending actually came, I was legitimately unprepared, and I legitimately felt like somebody I personally knew was gonna die. Props to this movie for brainwashing me into thinking that I knew Clint Eastwood. If only. Next up, we have Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver, starring Robert De Niro. Now, I haven't seen this movie yet, but I really want to see it soon, and you don't have to tell me it's good. I know that it's a masterpiece. The Blu-ray was converted to 4K resolution, so I know that the picture quality is just going to be superb. So I can't wait to watch it. And maybe after I watch it, I'll come out with a review of the movie for you guys. Pitch Perfect. I liked the Cup song. Next up, we have one of 2012's most underrated movies, Looper. Now, I was almost positive that this movie was going to be nominated for Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars, but the Oscars just never ceases to amaze me. This movie is criminally snubbed. This is a great action sci-fi time travel movie. It stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bruce Willis, and Emily Blunt. It has a very original plot and concept, which is pretty impressive due to the fact that there are a lot of time travel movies out there. But for a pretty complex plot that it has, Looper does a pretty good job in helping us understand exactly what's going on. Now, it does use the voiceover gimmick, but I don't think that hurts this movie at all. It does it well though, so what can I say? I feel like I've said this a lot today, but the cinematography in this movie is really unique. Rian Johnson, the director of this movie, really has an eye for that kind of stuff. Time travel movies can have a lot of plot holes, but impressively, this movie doesn't really have any. So check it out. Next, we have a movie where Steven Spielberg goes back in time to film important landmark moments in President Abe Lincoln's life. They say that Daniel Day-Lewis played this? No, that's just to cover up the truth. That is Abe freaking Lincoln. I haven't seen this movie yet, but I'll check it out soon. 3:10 to Yuma, starring Russell Crowe and Christian Bale. Now, I started to watch this movie, but then I stopped about 20 minutes in because I wasn't in the spaghetti western mood, and I wanted to enjoy it to its fullest when I was. So I'll get back to you on 3:10 to Yuma. Elf. This movie is absolutely brilliant. There are countless quotable lines in this movie that I can't even begin. Will Ferrell is at his finest. This is, without a doubt, my favorite Christmas movie. Next up, we have Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. Now, I don't want to say too much about these movies because I'm planning on doing a review of both of them in the future, and I want to talk about them more in depth then. But for now, all I'll say is that these are masterpieces. Also, I haven't seen these on Blu-ray yet, but I've heard that they have great picture and sound quality. And to end it off, I have the Steelbook for The Dark Knight Rises. Yes, I'm classy. I have the Steelbook. Ah! I'm coming! I have to go to dinner. My friend are lying if you said that you did not use the Bane voice for a week after you saw the movie.
Of course I'm lying. The Bane voice is just too fun to do. You nearly adopted the Doc. I was born in it, molded by it.